Nearly 6,000 restaurants have quietly shut their doors across America in the last few years, and most people haven't even noticed. Today, we're breaking down 12 fast food and casual dining chains that are closing locations right now. This isn't just a list of numbers on a page. If you drive through the town you grew up in, you'll feel it. Signs that used to glow at night are dark. Parking lots that used to fill up by 6 o'clock are sitting empty. Drive-through speakers that used to crackle with orders are silent. These chains aren't all failing for the same reason. But if you zoom out and look at the whole picture, one question keeps showing up. What is actually happening to the restaurants that used to feel like they'd be around forever? Number 12. Boston Market. There was a time when Boston Market meant Sunday dinner without the Sunday cooking. Rotisserie chicken, mashed potatoes, cornbread, all ready before you even walked in the door. At its peak, the chain had more than 1,100 locations and a reputation as the place you went when you wanted a home-cooked meal without actually cooking. But somewhere along the way, something broke. Customers started showing up to locked doors with no notice. Others said the same restaurant that used to be spotless now looked tired, understaffed, sometimes barely functioning. It wasn't one bad review. It was hundreds of people all noticing the same thing at the same time. Lawsuits from unpaid vendors started piling up. Health inspectors began shutting down locations outright. And while all of this played out, competitors like Cracker Barrel and grocery store rotisserie chicken counters quietly picked up the customers Boston Market left behind. Today, the chain that once had over 1,000 restaurants is down to a small handful. And some longtime customers still don't know it's still technically in business. Because sometimes a brand doesn't collapse from one big scandal. It collapses from 1,000 small failures nobody bothered to fix. Number 11. Red Lobster Cheddar Bay Biscuits. For a lot of families, that's the entire reason Red Lobster stayed in the rotation for decades. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like an occasion. A birthday dinner. An anniversary. The place you went when you wanted seafood without booking a fine dining reservation. At its height, Red Lobster operated more than 700 locations across the country. But behind the biscuits, the math stopped working. A now infamous endless shrimp promotion reportedly cost the company tens of millions of dollars because customers took it far more literally than the business model could survive. Add rising seafood costs, aging buildings, and private equity ownership loading the company with debt, and the pressure became impossible to outrun. Red Lobster filed for bankruptcy, and dozens of locations across multiple states closed almost overnight, some with employees finding out the same day customers did. And that's the part that stings the most. This wasn't a slow fade like some brands experience. For a lot of towns, Red Lobster was just open, and then it wasn't. Number 10. Applebee's. There was a stretch of time when Applebee's practically owned Friday night. Nowhere fancy. But let's go out. Half-price apps after 9, a bar area that always had a game on, and a menu built for exactly zero decision fatigue. The brand grew to more than 1,800 locations at its peak. But over the last several years, more and more people started describing Applebee's the same way you describe a restaurant you used to love and haven't thought about in years. Portions got smaller, prices climbed until an appetizer, and 2 drinks started brushing up against $40. And younger diners increasingly chose fast, casual spots that felt more current. Meanwhile, chains like Chili's leaned hard into value deals and social media buzz, pulling customers who used to default to Applebee's without thinking twice. The result has been a steady wave of closures, with dozens of underperforming locations shutting down as the parent company works to right-size the brand. Applebee's isn't gone, But for a chain that once felt like the default answer to where should we eat, being an afterthought might be the more dangerous position to be in. Number 9. IHOP pancakes at midnight used to be a genuine cultural moment. IHOP built an entire identity around being the place that was always open, always lit up, always ready for a late-night craving or a slow Sunday morning. At its peak, the chain operated well over 1,700 locations across North America. But the last few years have hit IHOP from every direction at once. Egg and dairy prices spiked. Labor costs climbed. Many locations quietly cut back their hours, and the one thing IHOP was famous for, being open whenever you needed it, started to disappear location by location. Customers noticed immediately. Complaints about slower service, short staffing, and menu items unavailable at odd hours became common. At the same time, breakfast-focused fast casual chains and even grocery store meal kits started eating into the quick breakfast out occasion IHOP used to own outright. Multiple franchise groups operating IHOP restaurants have filed for bankruptcy protection in recent years, leading to dozens of closures nationwide. And that's the irony underneath this story. IHOP didn't lose customers because the pancakes changed. It lost them the moment it stopped being the place you could always count on. Number 8. Sonic Drive in car hops, on roller skates, a menu of 100 drink combinations, and a speaker box that felt like it belonged in an entirely different era of fast food. Sonic built a loyal following by being genuinely different, and it grew to more than 3,500 locations at its peak. But a business built on nostalgia eventually has to compete with the present. Younger customers, raised on app-based ordering and drive-through speed, increasingly found Sonic's format slower and less convenient than newer competitors. Same-store sales have softened across multiple recent years, and the brand's TikTok-famous drink combos, while great for content, haven't been enough to offset rising ingredient and labor costs. Ownership changes and a broader restructuring within its parent company have led to a steady trickle of location closures, particularly in markets where newer, faster competitors moved in nearby. Sonic isn't disappearing overnight, but the gap between nostalgic and beloved and convenient enough for today keeps widening, and that gap is exactly where locations quietly stop renewing their leases. Number 7. Denny's was never trying to be the best meal of your week. It was trying to be there at 2 a.m., when nothing else was open, and for decades, that was enough. The chain grew to more than 1,600 locations, built almost entirely on being reliable, affordable, and always on. But always open got expensive. Round-the-clock staffing became harder to justify as overnight traffic declined, especially as delivery apps gave people an easier way to get late-night food without leaving the couch. A basic breakfast combo climbing toward $15 to $16 at many locations didn't help, especially for a brand whose entire reputation was built on being the cheap option. Denny's has closed a meaningful number of underperforming restaurants in recent years, with executives openly stating that the remaining locations need to be more profitable to survive. Meanwhile, Waffle House continues holding on to its regional loyalty, and breakfast-focused fast casual chains keep chipping away at the daytime crowd. Denny's isn't just losing the late-night diners. It's losing the identity that made it worth staying open that late in the first place. Number 6. Buca di Beppo. If you ever celebrated a birthday at a table covered in family-style pasta platters and hanging photos of old Italian film stars, there's a good chance it happened at Buca di Beppo. The brand built its entire identity around big, loud, shareable meals, growing to more than 90 locations at its peak, primarily in suburban shopping centers built for group dining. But the pandemic hit group dining harder than almost any other restaurant category, and Bucchia di Beppo never fully recovered the large party traffic it depended on. Costs for the large portions the brand was famous for kept climbing, while customers increasingly chose smaller, cheaper outings instead of big group dinners. The company filed for bankruptcy, and more than a dozen locations closed abruptly, some literally locking their doors midweek with signs taped to the windows. For a chain built entirely around bringing people together around one big table, it's almost poetic and painful at the same time that the thing which disappeared first was exactly that, the big group gathering. Number 5. Wendy's spent years positioning itself as the fast food chain with actual personality, sharp social media, fresh, never-frozen beef, and a founder's face that became a cultural icon. At its peak, the chain operated more than 7,000 locations worldwide. But personality doesn't pay rent, and lately more customers have been asking the same question they ask about nearly every fast food chain now. Is this actually worth it? A combo meal creeping toward $12 to $13 at many locations, combined with experiments in surge-style pricing that generated intense public backlash, damaged trust faster than almost any menu change could have. Meanwhile, Chick-fil-A and newer, better burger chains kept expanding, offering either better perceived quality or better perceived value, sometimes both. Wendy's has closed a notable number of underperforming company-owned locations as part of a broader turnaround strategy, even as it continues opening new restaurants in stronger markets. It's a strange position for a brand this well known to be in, not fading from memory like some smaller chains, but fighting a much more modern battle, convincing customers that a familiar name still means a fair price. Number 4. Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut basically invented the idea of pizza as an event, the red roof, the personal pan pizza as a childhood reward, the birthday parties held in the actual dining room. At its height, the brand operated more than 18,000 locations globally, making it one of the largest pizza companies on Earth. But somewhere along the way, Pizza Hut lost the thing it invented. Dine-in locations, the ones with the red roof and the arcade games, have been closing for years as the company shifts almost entirely toward delivery and carryout. Many longtime customers say the pizza itself feels like an afterthought now compared to faster, cheaper delivery-only competitors and grocery store pizza kits that didn't even exist 20 years ago. Domino's and Little Caesars have both aggressively undercut Pizza Hut on price and speed, while local pizzerias continue winning on quality in almost every market. Multiple large Pizza Hut franchise operators have filed for bankruptcy in recent years, closing hundreds of locations across the country as the brand tries to modernize what's left of its footprint. Pizza Hut isn't struggling because people stopped eating pizza. It's struggling because it stopped being the place people pictured when they thought about pizza night. Number 3. Burger King. There's a version of Burger King that lives in almost everyone's memory. Flame-grilled burgers, a crown-shaped hat, and a jingle that's been stuck in people's heads since childhood. At its peak, the brand operated close to 19,000 locations worldwide. But over the past several years, more and more customers have started saying the same thing. It just doesn't taste like it used to. And it doesn't cost what it used to either. A basic burger combo, pushing past $10 to $11 at many locations, has made customers far less forgiving of inconsistency, especially when a nearly identical meal is available elsewhere for less. Franchisees have publicly clashed with corporate leadership over remodeling requirements and rising costs, and several large franchise groups have filed for bankruptcy in recent years, leading to hundreds of restaurant closures nationwide. Meanwhile, McDonald's continues to outmarket and outmodernize Burger King in nearly every category, from app-based deals to drive-through speed. Burger King still has the crown. It just doesn't feel like it's wearing it the same way anymore. Number 2. Taco Bell spent years being the fast food chain that felt like it was in on the joke, late-night runs, Doritos Locos Tacos. A menu built for cravings rather than nutrition labels. At its peak, the brand grew to more than 7,000 locations and built one of the most loyal fan bases in fast food. But even a beloved brand isn't immune to the same pressures hitting everyone else. Menu prices have climbed noticeably in the past few years, and customers who once treated Taco Bell as the cheap option have started noticing it isn't quite as cheap anymore. Complaints about shrinking portions and inconsistent quality between locations have grown louder online, especially compared to the brand's own nostalgic marketing. At the same time, fast casual Mexican concepts like Chipotle and a wave of smaller regional taco chains have pulled away customers looking for fresher ingredients, even at a higher price point. Taco Bell has closed a batch of underperforming locations in the past couple of years as part of a broader restructuring effort, even while it continues opening new restaurants elsewhere. It's a brand caught in the middle of its own success, trying to stay fun and cheap while slowly becoming neither. Number 1. Chuck E. Cheese. If you grew up in the 90s or early 2000s, there's a good chance one of your happiest childhood memories happened inside a Chuck E. Cheese, tokens in hand, pizza barely touched because the arcade mattered more. At its peak, the brand operated more than 600 locations across the country and became almost synonymous with the childhood birthday party itself. But the thing that made Chuck E. Cheese magical to a 7-year-old became exactly what made it hard to sustain as an adult expense. Ticket prices, token costs, and the overall bill for a single party climbed to a point where many parents started asking whether it was really worth it compared to a backyard party or a trampoline park. The pandemic hit indoor entertainment venues especially hard, and Chuck E. Cheese's parent company filed for bankruptcy, closing dozens of locations that never reopened. Newer entertainment concepts, sleeker, more Instagram-friendly, and often built around adults as much as kids, have taken over the birthday party market in a lot of cities. Chuck E. Cheese isn't gone, and for a lot of families, it's still the answer. But the brand that once defined an entire childhood milestone is now competing for a moment it used to own without question. And that might be the hardest kind of decline to reverse, losing not just customers, but the memory itself. Looking back across this entire list, the strange part isn't that any single one of these chains is struggling. People still want pancakes at midnight. They still want pizza on a Friday, tacos on a Tuesday, and a place to take their kids for a birthday party. What's changing is that the brands that used to automatically fill those moments no longer hold the same spot in people's routines. Some of these chains are losing customers over price. Some are losing them over consistency. Some are losing an entire generation that simply grew up with different options. But underneath all of it is the same shift. People are paying closer attention to what they're getting for their money. And they're a lot less loyal than they used to be if that value isn't there. So here's what I want to know. Out of everything we just covered, which one of these closures actually surprised you the most? And is there a chain on this list you'd genuinely be upset to see disappear completely? Drop it in the comments. I read through pretty much all of them, and I'd love to hear which one hit close to home for you.